Hello first graders, this video will start our Magic Tree House book number 2. That book is The Night at Dawn. Okay, so we just finished book number 1, which was Dinosaurs at Dawn, and to recap that book, Jack and Annie found a mysterious treehouse in the woods of Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. And they have no idea where it came from, but when they went and explored, they found a ton of books about a lot of different things. So the first book they looked at was a dinosaur book. They made a wish, and they were in dinosaur time. Okay, so they got to experience real-life dinosaur time, and then when they made a wish to come back to Frog Creek, here they are, and they are the only ones that have gotten to experience this dinosaur time so far. So let's see what kind of adventure Jack and Annie get themselves into for book number 2, The Night at Dawn. Okay, so let's read the back. It says, peacocks for dinner and boys in skirts. That's what Jack and Annie find when the Magic Tree House whisks them back to the Middle Ages for another wild adventure. In the great hall of the castle, a feast is underway, but Jack and Annie aren't exactly welcome guests. Okay. So, maybe that gives you an idea of what might go on for their next adventure. Okay, boys and girls, so let's open up the book. It says, The Night at Dawn, and the author it's by Mary Pope Osborne, so that's our author, and it's illustrated by Sal Marduko. Okay, so Sal Marduko is our illustrator. So he makes the pictures in the book. Now, when you are going back in a book, remember this is our table of contents, so if you ever needed to refer back to, what happened in Chapter 2, I would know Chapter 2, Leaving Again, starts on page 10. Okay, so we all know how to use our table of contents. All right, let's get started. The Night at Dawn. All right, the dark woods. Jack couldn't sleep. He put his glasses on. He looked at the clock, 5:30. Too early to get up. Yesterday, so many strange things had happened. Now, he was trying to figure them out. He turned on the light. He picked up his notebook. He looked at the list he'd made before going to bed. All right, notice, boys and girls, remember that medallion with an M on it, or a medallion with an M from book number 1. So it's right there on his nightstand. He still has it. Found treehouse in woods. Found lots of books in it. Pointed the pteranodon picture in a book, made a wish, went to the time of dinosaurs. Pointed to a picture of Frog Creek Woods, made a wish, came home to Frog Creek. Jack pushed his glasses into place. Who was going to believe any of this? Not his mom, or his dad, or his third-grade teacher, Miss Watkins. Only his 7-year-old sister, Annie. She'd gone with him to the time of dinosaurs. Can't you sleep? It was Annie, standing in the doorway. Nope, said Jack. Me neither, said Annie. What are you doing? She walked over to Jack and looked at his notebook. She read the lists. Aren't you going to write about the gold medal? She asked. You mean the gold medallion, said Jack. He picked up his pencil and wrote, Found this in dinosaur time. Aren't you going to put the letter M on the medal? Said Annie. Medallion, said Jack, not medal. He added an M. Aren't you going to write about the magic person? Said Annie. We don't know for sure if there is a magic person, said Jack. Well, someone built the treehouse in the woods. Someone put the books in it. Someone lost a gold medal in a dinosaur time. Medallion, said Jack for the 3rd time. I'm just writing the facts, the stuff we know for sure. Let's go back to the treehouse right now, said Annie, and find out if the magic person is a fact. Are you nuts, said Jack. The sun's not even up yet. Come on, said Annie. Maybe we can catch them sleeping. I don't think we should, said Jack. He was worried. What if the magic person was mean? What if he or she didn't want kids to know about the treehouse? Well, I'm going, said Annie. Jack looked out his window at the dark gray sky. It was almost dawn. He sighed. Okay, let's get dressed. I'll meet you at the back door. Be quiet. Yay, whispered Annie. She tiptoed away as quietly as a mouse. Jack put on jeans, a warm sweatshirt, and sneakers. He tossed his notebook and pencil in his backpack. He crept downstairs. Annie was waiting by the back door. She shined a flashlight in Jack's face. Ta-da! A magic wand, she said. Shh! Don't wake up Mom and Dad, whispered Jack, and turn that flashlight off. We don't want anyone to see us. Annie nodded and turned it off. Then she clipped it onto her belt. They slipped out the door into the cool early morning air. Crickets were chirping. The dog next door barked. "Quiet, Henry," whispered Annie. Henry stopped barking. Animals always seemed to do what Annie said. "Let's run," said Jack. They dashed across the dark, wet lawn and didn't stop until they reached the woods. "We need the flashlight now," said Jack. Annie took it off her belt and switched it on. Step by step, she and Jack walked between the trees. Jack held his breath. The dark woods were scary. "Gotcha," said Annie, shining the flashlight in Jack's face. Jack jumped back. Then he frowned. "Cut it out," he said. "I scared you," said Annie. Jack glared at her. "Stop pretending," he whispered. "This is serious." Okay. Annie shined her flashlight over the tops of the tree. "Now, what are you doing?" said Jack. "Looking for the treehouse." The light stopped moving. There it was, the mysterious treehouse. At the top of the tallest tree in the woods, Annie shined her light at the treehouse and then down the tall ladder, all the way to the ground. "I'm going up," she said. She gripped the flashlight and began to climb. "Wait," Jack called. What if somebody was in the treehouse? "Annie, come back!" But she was gone. The light disappeared. Jack was alone in the dark. Chapter 2, Leaving Again. "No one's here," Annie shouted. Jack thought about going home. Then he thought about all the books in the treehouse. He started up the ladder. When he was nearly to the top of the house, to the treehouse, he saw light in the distant sky. Dawn was starting to break. He crawled through a hole in the floor and took off his backpack. It was dark inside the treehouse. Annie was shining her flashlight on the books scattered about. "They're still here," she said. She stopped the light on a dinosaur book. It was the book that had taken them to the time of dinosaurs. "Remember the Tyrannosaurus?" asked Annie. Jack shuddered. Of course he remembered the Tyrannosaurus. How could anyone forget seeing a real-life Tyrannosaurus Rex? The light fell on a book about Pennsylvania. A red silk bookmark stuck out of it. "Remember the picture of Frog Creek?" said Annie. "Of course," said Jack. "That was the picture that had brought them home." "There's my favorite," said Annie. The light was shining on a book about knights and castles. There was a blue leather bookmark in it. Annie turned the page with the bookmark. There was a picture of a knight on a black horse. He was riding toward a castle. "Annie, close that book," said Jack. "I know what you're thinking." Annie pointed at the knight. "Don't, Annie!" "We wish we could see this guy for real," Annie said. "No, we don't," shouted Jack. They heard a strange sound. Neigh! It sounded like a horse neighing. Both went to the window. Annie shined the flashlight down on the ground. "Oh no," whispered Jack. "A knight," said Annie. "A knight in shining armor, riding a black horse through the Frog Creek woods." Then the wind began to moan. The leaves began to tremble. It was happening again. "We're leaving!" cried Annie. "Get down!" The wind moaned louder, the leaves shook harder, and the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Jack opened his eyes. He shivered. The air was damp and cool. The sound of a hoarse whining came again from below. "Nay, I think we're here," whispered Annie. She was still holding the castle book. Jack peeked out the window. A huge castle loomed out of the fog. He looked around. The treehouse was in a different oak tree, and down below, the knight on the black horse was riding by. "We can't stay here," said Jack. "We have to go home and make a plan first." He picked up the book about Pennsylvania. He opened it to the page with the red silk bookmark. He pointed to the photograph of Frog Creek woods. "I wish—" "No!" said Annie. She yanked the book away from him. "Let's stay. I want to visit the castle." "You're nuts. We have to examine the situation," said Jack. "From home." "Let's examine it here," said Annie. "Come on." He held out his hand. "Give it." Annie gave Jack the book. "Okay. You can go home. I'm staying," she said. She clipped the flashlight to her belt. "Wait," said Jack. "I'm going to take a peek. A teeny peek." she said, and she scooted down the ladder. Jack groaned. Okay, she had won. He couldn't leave without her. Besides, he sort of wanted to take a peek himself. He put down the book about Pennsylvania. He dropped the castle book into his pack. He stepped onto the ladder and headed down into the cool, misty air. Chapter 3, Across the Bridge. Annie was under the tree, looking across the foggy ground. The knight's riding toward that bridge, I think, said Annie. The bridge goes to the castle. Wait, I'll look it up, said Jack. Give me the flashlight. He took the flashlight from her and pulled the castle book out of his pack. He opened it to the page with the leather bookmark. He read the words under the picture of the knight. This is a knight arriving for a castle feast. Knights wore armor when they traveled long and dangerous distances. The armor was very heavy. A helmet alone could weigh up to 40 pounds. Wow, Jack had weighed 40 pounds when he was 5 years old. So it'd be like riding a horse with a 5-year-old on your head. Jack pulled out his notebook. He wanted to take notes. As he'd done on their dinosaur trip, he wrote, "Heavy head? What else?" He turned the pages of the castle book. He found the picture that showed the whole castle and the buildings around it. The knight's crossing the bridge, said Annie. He's going through the gate. He's gone. Jack studied the bridge in the picture. He read, a drawbridge crossed the moat. The moat was filled with water to help protect the castle from enemies. Some people believe crocodiles were kept in the moat. Jack wrote in his notebook, crocodiles in moat? Look, said Annie, peering through the mist. A windmill, right over there. Yeah, there's a windmill in here too, said Jack, pointing at the picture. Look at the real one, Jack, said Annie, not the one in the book. A piercing shriek split the air. Yikes, said Annie. It sounded like it came from the little house over there. She pointed through the fog. There's a little house here, said Jack, studying the picture. He turned the page and read, the hawk house was an inner ward of the castle. Hawks were trained to hunt other birds and small animals. Jack wrote in his notebook, hawks in hawk house. We must be in the inner ward, said Jack. Listen, whispered Annie. You hear that? Drums, horns. They're coming from the castle. Let's go see. Wait, said Jack. He turned the more pages. I want to see what's really going on, Jack, not what's in the book, said Annie. But look at this, said Jack. He pointed to the picture of a big party. Men were standing by the door playing drums and horns. He read, fanfares were played to announce different dishes in a feast. Feasts were held in a great hall. You can look at the book. I'm going to the real feast, said Annie. Wait, said Jack, studying the picture. It showed boys his age carrying trays of food, whole pigs, pies, peacocks with all their feathers. Peacocks, Jack wrote. They eat peacocks? He held up the book to show Annie. Look, I think they eat. Where was she? Gone. Again. Jack looked through the fog. He heard the real drums and the real horns. He saw the real hawk house, the real windmill, the real moat. He saw Annie dashing across a real drawbridge. Then she vanished through the gate leading to the castle. All right, Chapter 4, Into the Castle. I only have a couple minutes left in this video, so I have to be really quick on this journal. Boys and girls, this is our new response journal. This is our new blue packet. It says The Night at Dawn. We read chapters 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so for our first question, it says, actually our only question says, what do you think Annie will find when she gets inside the castle? Okay, so boys and girls, I'd like you to respond something like this. I think Annie will find blank, and tell me what you think. So we have our capital letter, our words are going to make sense, and we have a period at the end. And then go ahead and draw a picture of Jack and Annie, and you can include yourself as well. I think that would be kind of fun to see that. And if you have anything else to say about what you think Annie will find, let's make sure we have our capital, our words that make sense, and our punctuation at the end, okay? So that does it for our reading today. Join me tomorrow for our next reading. All right, see you tomorrow, first graders.